winding it down. On that card also, Jared Anderson. Oh, well, there was 2 fights on there that I was of interest. Jared Anderson, Andy Ruiz. Jared Anderson reminded me of Michael Grant. They anointed this guy as the next up-and-coming star. Not thinking because this guy, the guy that he was fighting, Martin Bacoli, about fighting him, you know, it was Mike the Bounty Hunter's son he lost to, but it wasn't, you know, he was a little outclassed. I think he just was outmatched. He's not, I don't think Martin's great. I think he has got a ton of holes in his, you know, very slow, but he can punch. So I thought this was a perfect matchup for Jared Anderson to look good. He dropped the ball bad. I mean, this was a bad fight. I don't even think Jared honestly wants to be here because of some of the things he had said. He's struggling mentally. Is this the end of the road here for Jared Anderson as far as anointing him as the next up-and-coming guy? Because I can't even see him getting in there with someone on the next level, let alone someone at the other level.
I think you have to be very careful how you matchmake Jared Anderson. Honestly, I think him and Andy Ruiz is probably the perfect, God, I hate to say this, loser leave town kind of match. Like pro wrestling. Like,
yeah.
And I actually go the opposite. When I saw he was fighting Bacoli, I'm like, man, if Charles Martin hadn't have took the Jared Anderson fight on short notice, and that was, I think it was a 10-round fight, if that was a 12-round fight, this may be an entirely different conversation anyways. Charles Martin had him hurt bad late. Bacoli's a brute dude, strong dude, walks forward, kind of take 2 to give off 1. And Michael Hunter is the type of guy that's going to deal with Bacoli. Slick, smaller heavyweight, can move around a good bit. You can frustrate him. I just thought Jared Anderson would kind of be there to be hit, and it was going to be a battle of attrition. And that's what it came down to, because at one point it looked like the fight was going to be around. And then Jared Anderson came back with some hard body shots, and he just couldn't take what Bacoli was dishing. And honestly, if you let Bacoli tee off on you, it ain't many guys that can. I know he's came out since, and I hate sparring stories, but he said he stopped Usyk and another prominent heavyweight, I can't remember who it was, in sparring, and they wouldn't invite him back. Bacoli can punch, man, and he seems to be able to take a decent punch. I think Michael Hunter stopping him late was just frustration and him not being in the greatest condition.
Oh, I'll tell you what, Anderson could take a bit of a punch. That uppercut that he got hit with, I haven't seen an uppercut hit like that since Alistair Overeem got hit by that uppercut by Ngannou. His neck snapped, and I thought that was it. I said, he ain't getting up from this. I give him credit. He kind of got back on his feet, so I give him credit for that. And that's coming from Bacoli. That guy can punch. I just thought he was too slow, and they set him up for, because he's very athletic, Anderson. They set him up to say, okay, this is a guy we're going to move him a little bit, but I think he dropped the ball because I think mentally he failed in there towards the end there when he was getting hit.
He's such a weird case for everything you just said. So if you listen to what you just said, GZ, in one sense you say it feels like the kid doesn't want to be here, which by his own words and admissions, you can grasp that. Then he shows a ton of heart when he could have literally just checked out.
Yeah.
He gets up and he fights back. In his post-fight interview, he's saying he'll be back and he got to tighten up some things. He's a different one for me, man. I didn't like anything he told Roy Jones Jr. when he said, I don't need to be a champion, and I'm in it for the money. I don't really necessarily even like boxing. Some people can get away with that, but in the heavyweight division, when everybody can punch and everyone's a threat, that's a scary approach, man. And it's such a weird dynamic with him, because I truly thought there was times he could have just stayed on the canvas and he got up and he fought. So it's like it's Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde with him.
Yeah. Speaking of Michael Grant and blown talent, Andy Ruiz has got to be the single most blown talent fighter I've ever seen. I don't know if he is just his body shape is his body shape, but he just never looks like he's in shape. But then he has spots in a fight where he puts 3, 4, 5, 6 punches together. Now, he did have a broken hand that was horrible, but he just didn't look like it doesn't look like he's taking it as serious. And if he would just get in shape, I think he would be a machine and a hell of a fight for anybody. Just ask Anthony Joshua. But I think that he's starting to go on the backside of his career, because once you lose once, things start falling apart for you. They start falling, no one's going to watch you. No. And in the heavyweight division, all it takes is one loss. They don't want to see people with 2, 3, 4, 5 losses. They don't. Andrew Ruiz is going on 3. Well, that wasn't a loss. That was that was a loss. He should have lost that fight.
Absolutely.
He should have lost that fight. That was kind of one of those fights where I was like, how do you give it to, you can't not give it to his opponent. You can't. Where do you think Andy Ruiz goes from here? Because this is not that it's the end of the road. He's young still, but he ain't got much left in the tank, I don't think.
So I said this prior to the fight. I don't know, if I've ever seen 2 fights change a person as much as it changed Andy Ruiz. Those 2 fights with Anthony Joshua, obviously career high paydays. If you look at the lifestyle, he came from this blue collar, down home guy to the sunglasses and the flashy cars and the ranch, and nothing wrong with enjoying the fruits of your labor. It was just such a switch up to see him do that. And I think you see flashes of that in the ring, flashes of, I have money, I made it in the ring. Now, to be fair to me, I'm gonna be real with you, I thought Jarrett Miller earned that draw, because there was times in the fight, and I don't know if it's because his hand was smashed or his conditioning was poor. There was literally times in that fight, Andy Ruiz to me came off as a guy that was begging Miller, like, if you hit me with anything that look hard, I'll check out. And Jarrett Miller just would not commit. I thought Jarrett Miller, Big Baby, should have got the decision, but I think he kind of earned that draw for so many rounds where his corner was yelling, let your hands go. He had a great stick going to the body that I thought hurt Ruiz a few times, and he just wouldn't commit to it. Maybe he didn't trust his own conditioning, but it sucked. He was down 25 pounds, I think, from his last fight with Daniel Dubois. He had Bozie Edwards, Boots' dad, as the trainer, showed a little bit of dedication, losing the weight, and just would not fire off. And I think Miller's a little long in the tooth as well. He's had a kickboxing career. He's kind of up there in the boxing, so maybe he just doesn't have the gas tank to do that. But Andy Ruiz, man, I just don't see any fire in Andy Ruiz. And again, much like Jared Anderson, you're in the division where everyone can punch. No one has to cut weight, and you can bank on them coming in depleted. It's bad times for Andy. I thought that was a winnable fight for him.
Andy, when he got rid of Manny Robles, that's when I saw the wheels start to fall off. Mm-hmm. Not to say that Manny was the only thing that could have fixed him, but when you're coming up with someone for that long, you've been with him through the system, he was there. Then when I started hearing the stuff about the wife and the cars and this, I'm like, are we have a Buster Douglas on our hands, or do we have a guy who's going to get better with the belt? Turns out we have a Buster Douglas on our hands who might be on his way out the door.
Absolutely, man. The heavyweight division doesn't stop. It moves forward. We watched it. We've seen it, GZ, with Deontay Wilder. The division moves forward. When Andy Ruiz knocked out Anthony Joshua, the division moves forward. It's not one of these divisions where it's not like we're saying, like, man, I would still love to see Bud and Boots. It's not like that in the heavyweight division. There's no one right now who you just got to see Andy Ruiz in there with. I would like to see him and Jared Anderson, now that we're discussing it. But is anyone clamoring for that fight? No, I just think it's a good fight. Both guys coming off a loss on the same card where you can make that fight. But, yeah, Andy Ruiz have an uphill battle, and I don't know if he's mentally or physically up for the challenge. I really don't.
Thanks for watching the Zapata Brand podcast. Please subscribe to the podcast and listen where all podcasts are available.